overall, I think anybody can win. It's just the amount of time you have to stick with it. I think that that's true, and I stuck with it. And also, I probably got lucky as far as a lot of the factors that lined up. Because you have this, if you can build this so high and mighty to where like you have a business that's doing well, then a lot of our guys just don't have big enough egos to be like, oh, well, my boss is 18 or whatever. And like I said, I've been thinking about it a lot. I think it's just a bunch of combination of like, I don't think enough people put in the necessary hours and stick with it long enough to find the results. And I think that like I gambled this year and I just happened to hit the 50-50 odds this year where like the first year it snapped. But some people, they might not hit it and they might not hit it the next year. There's a 25% chance you don't hit it till your third year. This is gonna sound crazy, but I'm just like throwing out example. The first year your mom dies and it throws you into a spiral in the middle of spring rush, and then like you can't whatever. And then the next year you have a couple great employees and all of them quit during spring. So you just decide like I'm too busy. I'm just not going to rehire. I'm just not going to take any more customers. I'll just pump it out this year by myself. And like magically you're in your third year, or maybe you find yourself in your fourth year. And in that year, you hit it.
What does an 18-year-old, 500K a year entrepreneur do these days?
Just work, pretty much.
Real quick, if you're watching this on YouTube, hit the like button, drop a comment, subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. And if you're listening to this on a podcast platform, leave us a review. It'll help us out big time, and it'll let us know that you guys actually like what we're putting out. All right? Let's jump right in.
Bryson Turner, welcome. Thank you for making time, man. I know you're a busy man, you know. What does an 18-year-old, 500K a year entrepreneur do these days?
Just work, pretty much. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to do this because this is like the breakup of my normal day. It's kind of like I go to work to manage the guys, and then I come back and then I just keep working. But I mean, that's kind of the story of everybody.
So tell me, how did this come to be? I know that, you know, we've been talking for a while, right? So I kind of know a little bit of a background of your story.
No dates yet, but we have been talking.
Yeah, no dates. You know, it's kind of weird. It's like this long-distance relationship kind of thing that we got going on, you know. I usually don't really believe in it, but I don't know, man. I think it's working out just fine.
Seems to be working with you.
So tell me, man, how does this come to be?
Well, I was 16, and I had I just had found Mike on YouTube, the CEO of Augusta. Found Mike on YouTube and was like, oh, this just became a random average follower. I probably have a very boring origin story as far as how I found Augusta. It's probably the same as everybody else. But it's like, oh, this is appealing. Again, like I said, at the time I was I think I was 15 probably when I found him, and it was like, well, right now I'm going to the bathroom to take calls or whatever, and there's this command center thing where I'd never have to do that again. Well, that sounds pretty enticing. And then at that point, it was a lot less about the community because I just didn't know what it would be. And I think at that point, probably the community, because that was 2022, so like the community, it was only a couple years old. The community wasn't probably what it is today, but that ended up being the thing that I found the most value in. And so I had my first call January 2023 with Lee, who did the initial calls, and then. Pete, for some reason, I found out later that it was a rule of nobody, because I was barely 16. There was some sort of rule of, okay, nobody under a certain age, which is a completely reasonable and probably should be is completely reasonable and probably should have been in place. And for some reason, Lee was like, I'm going to let this guy in. He's not going to join until he's 17, and I'm going to let this guy in. And so I lived in Florida at the time, moved to Colorado, turned 17 October of 2023. Signed the papers December of 2023. Then had my first spring with Augusta last year. The reason I've been able to grow so much is just because of, I mean, I'm sure there's other factors of like I have worked a crap ton, and I'm sure that's part of the reason. But I guess the reason we've been able to grow as much, like to the extent we have, I think is mostly just, not mostly, but it's a large part in the fact that I've had zero personal expenses. That's changing in March, but up until now, I've had the opportunity to kind of just be able to almost take no money from the business until a couple months ago. And just be able to. I don't have a personal life. I just work. So I don't have a personal life. I don't do anything else. I kind of work and go to church, and that's about it.
So what's changing in March? Are you moving out?
Yeah, I am I'm moving out in March with a fellow business person that I met in school. So he's 18 as well. He'll actually be a GM for me next year. He is incredibly smart, much smarter than myself, in more of like the nerd smart way. And I'm very, very, very so pleased to know him. I feel so incredible. His name's Andrew. In case he sees this, I feel incredibly lucky and very pleased to get to be able to know him and be able to like have that locked in quote unquote like bro that lives in town that we can just feed off of each other. Because I think I'm a pretty firm believer in the fact that like I can do this amount of work and he can do this amount of work, but us together, even if we're not working on the same thing, just us feeding off each other can probably create like it's going to be more than 200%. It might be 300% of the work that gets produced that any one person could do, just because I'll push him to be better and he'll push me to be better, meaning both people will create more output individually.
Yeah, that's interesting. How does that dynamic work, right? Because like even when he becomes a GM, essentially you are going to be his boss and stuff. Even now, he's still his boss. So how does that dynamic work to the point where you guys don't cross boundaries that aren't supposed to be crossed?
I think it's an incredibly mutual respect where I know that he will not leave me next year. He will do a fantastic job, and that after that, because it's just a GM thing, because he's a little bit younger than me. He'll be graduating from high school this year, and so even though he's smarter, he just has like less, I guess, real world experience. So he won't be a GM for longer than a year, just because he's bigger and better than that. But it is one thing where if you can master that kind of in a year, it's a great life skill to have moving on, or I guess business skill to have moving on. And so it comes from an incredible mutual respect of, I know he'll do good for me and work the best he can. I know his work ethic kind of thing. And I know after that, it'll be a completely normal, different relationship. And he also knows that, I guess he understands and knows the expectations, and he will not let me down. And so it's almost like one of those things where I don't plan on being his boss long term, and so it's like we'll probably never have a huge boss dynamic, just because there's so much respect that already exists, and knowing that he can complete the job, and I'm not going to have to. There's so many things that I guess a boss is for, as far as making sure that you're still, I guess, doing what you're supposed to be doing, and I just know that he's already going to complete that, and so that takes away so much of the obligation of needing to. I'll still be able to lead, but not have to, I guess, course correct as much, just because I know that he'll put in the work to figure it out. He's the kind of guy where he'll ask you a question, or he'll ask you a question if he doesn't know something, and then, or like about business or about whatever kind of thing, right? And then you'll just be like, I don't know. No idea. And he'll text you like 45 minutes later. He's like, great, I just spent the last 45 minutes researching this question. And you're like, oh, your work ethic is unmatched. And yeah, he's incredible, and I'm super lucky to kind of have found him, and I'm so confident in his abilities.
Dude, that's great. And going through these, what, two years? Has it been 2 years in Augusta?
My first, like, I technically joined in December of 23, but my first, I think I made less than $5,000 between December of 23 and April of maybe mid-March of 24. And so really it's like spring rush of 24. So I haven't completed yet two full. Like I haven't
so it's like
posted 2 years of numbers.
Yeah.
So I mean, close to a year close to 2 years as far as the signing of the documents. But if you talk about like seasons, almost 2 seasons.
Okay. And in these 2 seasons, you've grown a lot. I mean, 0 to 500K run rate this year. And you have what, like 4-ish?
5.
Five
Guys.
employees?
Yeah.
How do you manage to earn their respect and have them look at you again as a boss and not a friend?
Yeah. I've been thinking about this a lot. I guess ironically, just because I have been trying, like, just for myself, of like, what did I do here? Because obviously some of it's like I didn't have personal expenses, but realistically that doesn't explain the amount of growth we have. I do think that I've gotten lucky. I think overall, I think anybody can win. It's just the amount of time you have to stick with it. I think that that's true, and I stuck with it. And also, I probably got lucky as far as a lot of the factors that lined up. Like last year, we had a ton of truck issues, but this year we've had like virtually none. we've had hiring issues this year, but during spring rush, where those hiring issues actually matter, we had none. We had great guys all through spring, like our couple months of hell. We had the same 5 guys day in, day out. We have 2 or 3 of those same guys right now. I think 2. But it's okay because like one of them moved, we fired one. I think the other one, I don't remember who it is, but we have the same. They have the same guy. Oh no, I think whatever. We have the same guys, and I think if you stick with it, anybody can succeed at anything. It's just the amount of time it takes to stick with it to fill in the skill gap that is in between any person. And I think I worked my absolute tail off and also got a little bit lucky as far as that goes. You have to excuse me, my voice is going a little bit. This spring was incredibly difficult, and I think the reason I've had success overall is not because I'm like fantastic or high IQ or whatever kind of thing. I think it literally is just sticking with it and putting in the amount of volume needed to succeed. I do think that with whatever volume you will succeed, and so just showing the guys like, hey, I'm the first person to show up. If I'm not there in the office, I text you about what I'm. It's not like I just. It's not if I don't show up to the work one day in the morning, I very much make it clear like where I'm at. Like, hey, I'm out running estimates. I got an estimate 7:15. It doesn't make any sense for me to be at the shop at 7. That way I have to be able to go to this estimate kind of thing. I make it very clear where I am every day, what I'm doing every day, and then I do think at the end of the day, if you run a somewhat professional organization. I think it's a lot of the things that to have an employee respect you. I do think it's obviously some of that relationship. I do think it's a lot of the stuff you do off the field as well, as far as the field being your direct interaction with them. Meaning if you have because most of the customers obviously don't know how old myself or even you are as far as age goes. And so that's not really the issue. It's, I guess, and so because you have this, if you can build this so high and mighty to where like you have a business that's doing well, then a lot of our guys just don't have big enough egos to be like, oh, well, my boss is 18 or whatever. Because if I had one guy and we were doing like $150,000 in revenue and we had like a couple of customers and we didn't strive for greatness, I guess how we are, we didn't have the infrastructure, we didn't have a shop, all that kind of stuff, it might be a little bit harder. But I think there's you have to like kind of build undeniable proof before you have their respect. And so I think building, we'll do 550, I think between 550 and 600 this year. And I think when somebody joins, especially now, it may have been a little bit harder during the spring. And that's when I struggled, right? Because I went from 0 to 5 employees in spring, or a part-time guy last year to 5 full-time, wife's girlfriends, some of them have kids, that kind of stuff. That was the transition I made this year. And so that was really difficult. And I can talk about that in a second and what that was like. But I think that it's a little bit easier now just because people sign up for work. They have a professional onboarding. They show up to an actual shop. There's other full-grown adults there. And so like whenever they find out their boss is 18, you're like, oh, that's interesting. But also like the surroundings are no different than if I was 60 or whatever. And so as long as you can kind of create that environment for people in which they feel like they're showing up to an actual job that they have security in, then I think that's where the big difference is. The part I struggled with this spring, this is kind of what I show people a little bit, is like there's somewhere down here where you say like, oh, yes, baby, let me fix everything for you if you have a complaint. And there's the other side where you're like, tough shit, figure it out. Like, I don't care. You're a full-grown adult. You're 27. What are you not able to figure out about like, great, the chain fell off the aerator. You're texting me why? Like, have you tried everything and you figured it out? No, I haven't tried it. I'm just like, I didn't try very hard. I don't really know why I text, but great, go figure it out, right? Like you're 27, you've done this, I've showed you how to do this, whatever. And so the issue is it's not one or the other, because if you do this, people quit because they just feel like you don't care about them, especially, right? You do have to be more weary of it. That is the part you have to be more weary when you're younger, is if you're just younger than the person, no matter who you are, if you're 37 and your employee's 50, like there's the starting age of the employer does not matter. It is kind of just like the age gap that you have between the employer and the employee. If you just do this every single time, then they're going to be like, who is this dude? Like their ego is going to start kicking in. I'm like, this dude, what is this dude talking to me about? But But then if you go down here where you're like, oh yes, baby, let me drive to the shop and fix that with you right now, kind of thing, then you just have no more time and you don't build anything and your business doesn't get any better. And so I think it's finding like the sweet spot. I think is like right in there where it's like 60 to 65% of the harshness, to where I've been in here a lot. So sometimes, and I've also gone down here. Like there's been times where I have a lot of time that day where I've gone down here, and then there's times where I pop all the way back up here today. Where again, like I said with the aerator example, it was like, hey, this thing fell off, but I don't really know how to like. I've worked with these chains before, but I don't know how to do this one. And I was like, great. Did we check YouTube? Yeah. Okay. What did YouTube tell you? Like, oh, what told me this? Great. Are there other ways to do it? Well, I haven't looked into that. Well, great. Maybe let's do that. And then like, before we come to Bryson saying like, this is my detrimental problem, like, what do you expect me to do? Do you think like you've worked here this guy's worked here since December. Like you've worked here since December. You're like, he's worked in the industry for like 15 years. You've been in these situations before. Instead of just giving me like hey, this happened. Great. What I'm not there right now, and I'm unable to just snap my fingers and have something be fixed. What do you expect that we do as far as the next step? And so I think if you go above the right here, that sweet spot, it needs to be kind of disguised or handled as that, where like this is not where you always are. It's kind of around there. But when you do go up here, it needs to be something where it's firm. Of like, great, Andy, I'm not gonna look. I've asked you. I feel like I'm walking through how to look up on something up on YouTube with you. I need you to give me like a, hey, we tried this, and this. I'm confident that if you come to the shop, you will not be able to fix it. That's what I really want. Is like, I don't want people to be like we can't fix it, because how many times have somebody said they can't fix something, and then you show up to the shop the next morning, like 5 minutes, you find something, you find a hammer, just crank the chain back on. You're like, great. You spent an hour and a half on this yesterday, and I'm paying you for the time you tried to fix this. Guess what ended up happening in that situation that ended 45 minutes ago? Did the chain get fixed or not?
Hey, real quick, if you're still watching or listening, congratulations. You don't have the attention span of a goldfish, and it also seems like you like what you're listening or watching. So why not subscribe, leave a comment, like, or if you're in a podcast platform, leave us a review. It helps us out more than you think. All right, let's get back into it.
It got fixed.
Yes.
Like I wasn't there. It got fixed. We grabbed another employee that was also at the shop at the same time who works on bikes, and we magically figured out how to fix this thing. As in I was not there. Like the employees end up figuring it out. So I think it's finding right like where in here to always be, and then once you've built up the respect right here, and sometimes you pop down here if you have the time. You're not above being down here. If you're there at the shop and they're like, hey, I can't figure this out, I jump in and help them if I've got the time. But then whenever it's here, then they know you're here, and they know you do a good job at staying within that area. And so if you need to jump up, they know that you're not just like being some hard ass that's just like always up here. They know you're usually around here. And then once you jump up, they're like, oh, I should. Like the employee in the situation is 10 years older than me. He's 28, he's 29 now. And so it wasn't like whenever I was like, dude, I don't know what you want me to do. Like, I'm not there, whatever. It was him. His response was, hey, I'm not trying to give you sass or anything like that. It was just, I don't know what to do or whatever. It's like, great. Okay. We can work off that. So he knows that I'm usually right here. So when I jump up to here, it means something. It's not just me wanting to have a power trip.
That makes sense, dude. I think everybody goes through that stuff. You know, I think a lot of people that look for a job and that get a job, they often don't have that independence of fixing problems for themselves, whether it's because they genuinely don't know what to do because they've always had it done for them by a manager and or maybe raised while they were being raised by the parent, or they generally just don't feel like doing it because they feel like it's above their pay grade, right? Like, I'm here to work, I'm not here to fix machines type of attitude.
Correct, yeah.
The latter you can't really.
Thankfully, this
fix.
guy it's not.
Yeah.
Thankfully, it's this guy. It's not. He'll jump in and work on something. It's just he kind of gives up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like attitude is something that you can't really fix. You know, it's something that is kind of self-taught or experienced through. But when they have the right attitude, then that's something that you can actually work with. Now, walk me through what happened from the first year doing barely $5,000 between December and April to now doing over 10x that in a year. or so?
Well, it would be 100x.
It would be 100x.
$5,000.
Mathing.
Yeah. So, well, it's just like it was December through March, right? It was like our really, really hard winter season. So the problem is, I moved here. We like mowed a couple people, shoveled 6 driveways over the winter.
Right.
Like, just by the time I moved here, there was no time to establish, and I wasn't part of Augusta yet, so there was none of that kind of framework. Which you can totally be successful without a franchise. You will just be more. Like, there's a reason they exist. You will be more successful if you join the franchise and follow what they do and what they tell you to do. As I have seen, there's no way I'd be where I am without Augusta. Just mostly, like I mentioned earlier, because of the community. So yeah, we did 150 last year. I guess is an easier number to go off of, like 150 to 550 this year. And like I said, I've been thinking about it a lot. I think I think I don't know. I think it's just a bunch of combination of like putting in the necessary hours. I don't think enough people put in the necessary hours and stick with it long enough to find the results. And I think that I put in the necessary hours this year, and I guess it's almost like this is probably a terrible example. It feels a little bit like gambling, right? Where I put in the necessary, like I gambled this year and I just happened to hit the 50-50 odds this year, where like the first year it snapped. But some people, they might not hit it, and they might not hit it the next year. There's a 25% chance you don't hit it till your third year. Like things don't really, like your first year. This is gonna sound crazy, but I'm just like throwing out example. The first year your mom dies, and it throws you into a spiral in the middle of spring rush, and then like you can't whatever. And then the next year, you have a couple great employees, and all of them quit during spring. So you just decide, like, I'm too busy. I'm just not going to rehire. I'm just not going to take any more customers. I'll just pump it out this year by myself. And like magically, you're in your third year, or even if we're talking about your launch from your first to your 150 to 500, maybe you find yourself in your fourth year, and then that year you hit it. Of like, oh well, like in 2024 we had $20,000 in truck issues, which is not an extreme amount to some businesses, but for a business with 2 trucks that was using one on most days, it was a pretty big deal. 155, 20,000, like 155,000, 20,000 bucks. All of the possible profit was taken up in that. And so even when that was the issue, is like even when I was solo, that's what made last year so hard. And I think I kind of did the latter of those examples last year, as far as locking down, like planning on hiring somebody, but I think it still ended up being in a successful way. I just would never be able to do that again, if that makes sense. We ramped up from nothing to, I was doing like 80 budget hours by myself every week. And then I was working Monday through Saturday in the field, sometimes on Sundays for like half days. And those would be like 14-hour days in the field. And then I'd come home and do the office admin work. And so that's what, like, I mean, that's the only reason we made money last year, is because I did it all up myself. We had super low prices, which is why we grew. 0 to 150 is not a bad number in the first year, but really I feel like the presence that it allowed us to establish allowed us to grow from the 150 to 550 mark this year. I just also think we've gotten fairly lucky. Like, some of it's luck, some of it's luck that was paid for to have better odds, if that makes sense. Like joining Augusta is almost like paying off the dealer and blackjack a little bit, where you're like, hey, can you blame me for winning? If I was the one who, people will say, oh, you're only successful because you're in a franchise. And I'm sure you've gotten that some too. Of it's like, well, whose decision was it to join the franchise? I'm pretty sure that was a business decision on my part that I made, and now I'm successful. So I see, it doesn't make any sense why you think that that's a bad thing. Maybe I am only successful because I'm in the franchise. Great, I was the one who decided to join the franchise. Like, what do you want from me, dude? I don't understand.
It's like,
and
it's
so,
like great. Yeah, it's like
yeah.
Great. I decided to join. Now I'm gonna grow in the same. Like, by the time that you get to where I'm at, I'm gonna be like 2 to 3 times bigger than you. So, like,
I will grow
really,
faster than you. I will make more money
really
than
winning?
you. What do you want from me? Like, yes, I may. We'll never know, right? We'll never know if I would have been this successful if I was not in the franchise. But I am in the franchise, and I am this successful, or whatever. Like, I guess not to. That sounds super egotistical, but I am at the point where I'm at, wherever it is, because I'm in the franchise. And I don't think you can. It was a business decision. It was my decision, and I'm winning because of it. And so I think that's like a side rant that I feel like I needed a platform to yell at somebody for. But yeah, I don't know. I think I think the short, long answer is maybe I'm a genius. Maybe I am just business guru that should teach everybody how to grow a business. 99% likely it's that I'm probably like a semi-smart guy who just worked 100 hours a week or more in the spring and still works an incredible amount of hours now. Um, and we just managed to hit it on the second year as far as the growth. Like a lot of things lined up. We didn't have truck issues. We had good employees. We had enough leads. I think we just hit it, and we just put in the work, and eventually it will come. There's going to be years where I think the other thing too is I had a limited amount of things that could go wrong. So like compared to a 37-year-old where, yeah, like you have wife, kids, mom, dad, dog, whatever, like a house, a mortgage, that kind of thing. There's a lot of things that could go wrong. Or if one thing goes wrong, there's a lot of things that could spiral out of control. I don't have enough money, so I can't pay my mortgage, and I have an unhappy marriage because I can't provide for the like that kind of thing. If I just didn't make any money, the worst thing that happens is I go to business. And I think I've talked to you like on some of the Augusta calls and whatever. I've mentioned this and you've commented on it of like even your year this year. It's like I am successful at one thing, and that's business. I don't have a social life. I don't. I know one guy, and that's Andrew. That's kind of the only person I talk to. But I'm successful at one thing. Like I don't live on my own. I don't have a wife or a child or even a dog that I legally own, kind of thing. I have a business that I legally own, and that's the one thing I'm successful at. And so I feel like whenever, because Augusta does praise milestones and success a lot, and I feel like every single time some of those get praised, I'm very quick to be like, yeah, but to be clear, this is the only thing I'm doing. So the person out there that is going to take, instead of 2 years to grow to 500,000, it's going to take them 4 years. Like a lot of those people have like wives and the perfect 2.8 children and a dog and a mortgage, and it's like you have so many more financial responsibilities, and you are winning at more than one thing than I am. And so I think some of that too. It's just like I'm a bachelor with a small need for money, like a very minimal need for money at the moment, and so it's just been able to like have one goal. And like, do I get distracted and feel like burnt out every 100%? I'm not just like this guy who's like I just put in the amount of work and it's always easy and you just get to there eventually. It sucks, and like I'm in a good mood now, but I'm not always in a good mood. Rarely actually am I in a good mood like consistently, and so I guess I think that's it. Of like no fluff. It sucks. Everybody has to go through it, and it might take a few more years, but it will happen.
Yeah. I definitely agree with you. And like that's something that I've been thinking about too, right? Like we're so quick to compare to other people, just because, we're humans. Competitiveness is in our blood, right? And so like you'll look at someone that's doing 800,000, $1 million, or someone that has multiple locations, and you'll be like, damn, like, dude, I wish I could be him, Like, I wish.
And then you realize they've been doing it for 10 years, and you're like, oh.
And then you realize they've been doing it for 10 years. Or you realize that they're not even making money. They're actually really stressed
Correct.
out.
Yeah.
They're living a life that they wish they wouldn't be, and they actually wish
their
to have your life.
better than them. Yeah.
Their employees are living better than them. But then like, on the other side of the coin, you have someone else that is just starting, that has a lot of stuff going on in their life, that they can barely get the business off the ground. They're looking at you and they're like, man, I wish I could be him. Like, he's just so cool, man. He's doing so much money. He's doing it so fast. Like, I wish I could be him. Meanwhile,
I appreciate you looking up to me in that way.
All right, buddy. and then
I have no idea what I'm doing.
and then they look at their personal life. They're like, well, I have a kid, I have a wife, I have a mortgage, like you said. And it's like, well, you have a guy that's just doing one single thing 24/7, 365 days a week. Obviously,
we all have the same, yeah.
Yeah, like how Alex says, right? Volume negates luck. So the fact that you're doing so much volume in terms of work means that by default you will get ahead of most people that can only put in 50, 60 hours compared to 100 and some change.
Yeah.
So,
and to be clear, there are people that we see that are just not working. Like they also have very little going on, and they're just like not doing anything. Mm-hmm. I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about the people that are actually quote unquote winning in more fronts than one. meaning I'm only winning in business. But like you were talking about, that person who's just starting out, quitting from their other job that already has the people to provide for, has to start with the higher prices because they have to make money right from the get-go. That's probably so much cooler in the big scheme of life, and that's such a, I guess that is like my life goal. I just have a little bit of time before I have to. I guess I got lucky in the fact that I
Yeah.
kind of caught the bug before the average person who decides to take the path did.
Yep.
Again, probably complete luck, right? And so that's what I guess I feel a little bit lucky on it, but also I'm winning just in business. I'm not winning anywhere else. And so many people are doing so many cooler things because they're like
Yep.
raising human beings, and I'm like, I cannot say I've done that yet.
Yeah, and I mean, that's something that I had to come to like make peace with this year, right? Because I've seen people, like for yourself, you're growing faster than me, or anybody else in Augusta that either has been in it for a couple years or have just started. Like, everybody's going at their own pace, and at the end of the day, they're living their lives. I'm living my life. You're living your life. I have things that I'm
And
responsible
you've got more
for.
things going on than me outside of work.
I got more things that I'm responsible for, therefore they take my attention. And you are going to have more things that you're going to have to pay attention to, which would, maybe slow you down, maybe not. Really just depends on how important they are to you. And it just really comes down to, like, what are you optimizing for, right? Are you optimizing for business growth in your life? Okay, great. If that's what you're doing, cut off literally everything else, right? And just focus on that. Are you optimizing for your personal life, whether it's like the way you're living, your love life, etc.? Okay, guess what? The business is you're not gonna be able to work as much on it because now you gotta give this other person attention. You gotta make sure you're healthy, this and this and that. You're gonna have more expenses. Are you optimizing like work-life balance or any of that? It's all gonna take different amounts of attention. Therefore, you will literally physically not be able to give it your all 24/7. So you will, by default, grow slower. But then that also depends on the amount of leverage that you have, whether it's money or people, right? But
100%, right.
Mainly focusing on the early stages.
Correct. Yeah, there's a lot of work that can be put into it, and I guess my great grandpa was a fairly successful business. I never met him, but he was a fairly successful businessman. He said the harder I work, the luckier I get. And I'm like, oh well, that's also somebody else has probably also said that, and I don't know, but that was who I heard it from first.
I think like everybody said that at this point.
I think also it's true, but I guess maybe not in those words. But yeah, I guess I think it is true, right? Like the harder I work, like if I've been using this example a lot lately because it applies to a lot of different things. It's between here and here. If I didn't work at all, like obviously I would have had zero business, right? But I worked however much I have now, and I have the size of business I have it now. If I had done this much, I would have had no luck because I guess I wouldn't have been able to put myself in the situations where I could have gotten lucky is the best way to put it. And so I've worked this much, which is way more than working this much. And so I have this much more potential to be in those situations where I get lucky. And so I guess I think that's the best way to put it. Like I've gotten super lucky 100% in certain things. I've also dedicated like the entire, like not dedicated my life, not meaning the extent of like my future, but up to this point dedicated the time I have been in Augusta, I have been all in Augusta, if that makes sense. I've done nothing other than Augusta. I've not been successful at anything else. I have not dated. I have not, regardless of trying or not, to be clear, I've been not successful at that thing yet. And that's just mostly because like regardless of what inklings or urges you have, not both can be true, and so that's why I'd just rather make one true now, like one really true now as far as success goes, and then be able to make other things, like the other, however, an infinite amount of truths true, make as many of those true as possible.
Right, and again, it just really comes down to like what you want, right? If what you're looking for now is business success and maybe securing your future, then yeah, go all into business. But if what you're looking for is maybe finding the partner that you're going to be for the rest of your life, okay, your business is going to be in the background, and you're going to have to focus on that and do everything possible to make that happen. So it's just really up to
everybody's the same 24 hours,
Mm-hmm.
but assuming you use all of your 24 or as many of your non-sleeping 24 hours productively, you will see the according results, but they might be spread out among other things. And I think the other thing is because results are compounding when spent on the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like somebody who spends 50% of their time on the business and 50% on other stuff, which is not a bad thing, is not going to see half the results that I do when I spend 100% of my time. They might see 30% or whatever because I put in 50% more time. But again, because it's not a linear curve, it's an exponential curve.
Yep.
Meaning the guy who puts in 50% only gets to here as far as height goes, but I put in 100%, so I get to here, kind of thing.
Yep. Yep.
I guess that's just a thought. And so again, I work a lot, but it's a lot of luck, I think. But I'm also putting myself in the situations to get lucky.
Exactly. And so on the topic of working a lot, how is it that you can work so much and, obviously you can get burned out and that's just how it is. How do you avoid maybe not giving up or not losing interest, not losing the drive and pushing through that burnout?
I guess some of it is, I don't know. I feel like I haven't been doing this long enough, Ricardo, to like actually have real business answers for you. But as far as like my dumb 18-year-old mind goes, I think I kind of have two things. One is whenever you're catching me on a stint of the last week or so of like almost never feeling more motivated. But like for months this year, there's been a month, like the last couple months have been very like up and down of like some weeks I'll be like, oh, we closed this or whatever. So I'll be on the top of the mountain. And then other weeks I'll just be like at the bottom of the ocean of like, I don't even know what I'm doing, whatever kind of thing. The quote I heard earlier today is the lost person who crawls will make it further than the shock. I guess the stunned person who like stands still or whatever. And so I guess some of it is like even when burnt out, yeah, don't like force yourself. Like burnt out's a real thing. We can all agree with that. And there's all these different like guru tactics of like how not to get burnt out or whatever. Just push through it. Like burnout's a real thing. We all deal with it. Not that I'm a huge like follower of his kind of thing, but like David Goggins, for example, the person who like is the king of not burning. Like David Goggins has burnout. It might not be for like months or whatever, but like there's not a human being that's created like without the, I guess, kind of nerfed ability to not get burnt out. Mm-hmm. And so I think mostly it's like I was just saying with that quote earlier, like it's crawling through the burnout and still putting in what you can. Now there are times like in the spring, right? There's sometimes where like you move so fast you don't have time to get burnt out, and then you slow down a little bit, and that's usually when burnout comes. So it makes you wonder, like if I was just always in spring rush, could I just never get burnt out? And we'll never know because most of those people die, I think, and just like don't actually sleep, and so I think they die, but I'm not sure if they ever got not burnt out. But as soon as you slow down and when you start to feel it coming on, and so I think everybody has to handle it differently. And for me, I think it's kind of like show up, at least do. I guess the nice thing about burnout is I will at least. And this was different last year because I didn't have anybody to show up for. Now that I have people to show up for as far as employees and stuff like that, like if I'm burnt out and I don't do estimates, I have to lay off people. And like I'd much rather do estimates than lay off people. And so that's where I guess accountability kind of comes into it. And that's kind of thing too of accountability. And that's nice that I have Andrew now too as well, just because we keep each other super accountable. And other people inside of Augusta, Andrew's just somebody that I see multiple times a week, and so it's very easy. It's very easy for him to see that I've been slacking, and he checks in on me, and I check in on him. Of like, what'd you accomplish today, or how are you doing on that thing that you said you were going to do earlier today? And it's like, we're very honest with each other. Like, honestly, man, I felt unproductive today, which is actually today. I felt very unproductive today. I've been running it ragged. I think because I've been running it ragged, I get like more susceptible to getting sick, and I got like some allergy sickness stuff. That's why I've been muting myself for every 4 seconds. Like today, I had a fairly unproductive day. I went to go do estimates, and then got lagged behind because we were fixing sprinklers. And then magically it was 4 p.m. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got nothing done. I haven't even sent the estimates. All I did was go look at a couple properties, kind of thing, and ate lunch, and that's kind of it. There were some other big things that happened today that affected my attention for a bit. So I guess that's a semi-valid reason. But the point is we check in on each other, and I at least have not the humility. I would not admit that to a lot of people. I at least have the friendship with him to be able to know that if I'm slacking, I tell him. If he's slacking, he tells me. And so I do think that accountability, like I was talking about earlier, is like I can do this much, he can do this much. We both get burnt out, but if we see the other person still killing it, you can either choose to have that make you super depressed, or you can choose to realize like everybody gets burnt out, and it's just a matter of what you do with it at that point. I think it's important to like respect the burnout because it's a real thing that real people feel, and there's a reason you're feeling it. It's not just that you're feeling it because you're not doing anything. Because like in the middle of winter when I'm not doing anything, I don't feel burnt out. I just feel lazy and tired, and potentially fat at certain times. But so I guess it is after a season of really pushing, and I think that's where accountability. Same thing, right? If you're like something I'm really looking forward to when Andrew and I move in together is like one of us has a really late night, the other person doesn't, and that person who doesn't still gets up at whatever time. In my everyday life, like when we live in separate houses or whatever, if he has an early morning and I had a late night and I didn't, we don't know about either that for anybody. So he still goes to bed early. I still go to bed late. He still gets up early. I still get up late. But if he had a he didn't have a late night, but he has an early morning, then I hear him and I'm like, I better get up. I'm just being a wuss kind of thing. And so it allows you to actually function off of what you need and not function off of how much like your body is like telling you I need sleep or I need 8 hours a night or whatever. When realistically that's not true, but you'll still listen to your body if there's nobody keeping you accountable.
Yeah, I think that is really true. And I've gone through this like this year. I mean, I'm still going through it. This like, it's just my body's asking for rest, is asking for comfort, is asking for like, yo, like bro, like stop. It's like essentially begging me like, dude, like chill out, right? And obviously sometimes I say like, okay, we're gonna chill out. We're gonna take Saturday, Sunday off. We're just gonna either be home, hang out with people,
go hit golf balls is my
do
thing.
this, yeah, like do something, like get distracted a little bit. And then sometimes I'm like, all right, Saturday, Sunday, we gonna get to it. You know what I mean? And there's times where you go all out, and then there's times where you go like all in to bed, right? And trying to find that equilibrium where it's like, okay, we're not sprinting to the finish line, but we're also not walking when we get tired as well. So it's kind of like a middle.
Or staying
jog.
still at least. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think it's my same view on life, but just in like a span of a year it actually really works out. Like in spring, we push really, really hard, and the rest of the year, not that we're coasting, but we're not pushing as hard as spring. And I think that's like an interpretation of like hopefully what I have my entire life to be, but just condensed into like 1 year of this is my spring rush as far as life goes. And I have a couple years to make it. I have a couple years to. The next couple of years will determine how much more successful I am than the next person. Just like pure, like no fluff kind of thing. That's true. And then after my spring rush of life, then I'll still work hard, but not the ungodly amount of hours. And because I'll have to put that towards other things, if that makes sense.
Yep. No, definitely. I do believe that. Whenever I started business, I told myself, I was like, by 25. I will have $1 million business. I will be a millionaire, and that will set me up to do everything else that I actually want to get done and I want to accomplish for the rest of my life. So I have 4 years. And I have 4 years left to make it. Dude, 4 years is such a long time. But then again, it's
you
like
have so much time.
But then again, it's like I turned 18 yesterday, and now I'm 21. So it's also like a sense of urgency. But I do believe that it's going to happen within those 4 years.
Think about that. You're 2 years in. You're 2 full years in, right? Or are you 3 years almost now?
2 full years in. This will be the second full year in.
Yeah. So out of 6 years, because you're 21, out of 6 years, you've already built a business that's in the 300s. Mm-hmm. So if you just did that 2 more times, you did that in 2 years, so there's 2 more 2 years. You just did that 2 more times, and if growth was literally like this and wasn't like this at all, even if it was like this, you'd hit $1 million.
Yep. So I've said this from the start. It's not whether I will or will not do it. It's just a matter of when am I going to do it. Like there's a lot of people that will think of like, oh, what if I fail? What if I this? What if I that? In my mind, I guess not to tickle my ego, but like in my mind, it's like, no, I will. This will happen. I will make sure this happened. This happens.
Yeah,
and,
no, I don't
like,
think
just a matter
it's
of time.
not tickling your ego at all. Yeah, I think it's like, I think the only people that will be offended by talking about your goals and your successes, not in like an egotistical, narcissistic way, but the only people that will be offended by that are the people that are, I guess, either jealous or I think jealous is just really is the only person. Like nobody that is rooting for you or is more successful than you will break you down for being like, guess what I accomplished? Like we bought a new truck yesterday. Like that's nobody's gonna beat you down for that. That truly wants to see you win. And so I think that like, if anything, this business podcast with Ricardo Vargas should be the one place that you can be like, yes, we are succeeding on this front, and I think this is why, so that other people can do the same thing, or at least hear that they're not crazy. That's why I made it very clear that like burnout's a real thing. It's not like I'm just like saying, hey, push through burnout, but at least crawl through. Like do something. It doesn't need to be spring rush level. Like you can't just keep going at the same speed, but like do something. But also don't do the same as you were doing before, because burnout's a real thing and you'll quit. And it's all about the long. I guess like to kind of loop it back in, like roll along 15 minutes later from what your original question is, like the successfulness is the fact that I might be up here sometimes and going really fast, and I might be down here sometimes and barely going. But the point is, it's always progress. Like regardless of the loading speed, it's always progress towards the end goal and never going back. There's a really good book, Trevor Moa, I think is his name, with an M. He's Russell Wilson's, when NFL quarterbacks, mind coach, and he's washed now, but he was a very good quarterback at one point. But he was his mind coach, right? And I mean, he is a Hall of Famer. He is one of the greats. And he has a book called It Takes What It Takes. And I think that's something that it's like one of those books that you read it and you're like, great, that was a really good book. I'm not exactly sure how I feel like I do everything in the book, right? And then like a month later, you realize that you're actually way better at doing the things that the book talked about, even though you thought you already did it. And It Takes What It Takes is a lot about, like, I mean, pretty much that. It's just that of like it does take a certain amount of input to get to the goal. Like there's no get rich quick scheme when achieving some people may do it faster than others because of luck or because of hard work or whatever. But it still takes a certain amount of like points, if that makes sense. Work gives you some points, luck gives you some points, but it still takes, let's call it 1,000 points to get to $1 million business. Some of it might be luck, some of it might be work, but it's not all going to be luck. Like I was talking about earlier, if you do no work, you're not going to get 1,000,000 points in luck or 1,000 points in luck. And you're not going to get 1,000 points. You're going to be at some point you might have bad luck, you might have good luck. It's going to end up being more good luck than bad if you stay in it for long enough. It's almost like reverse gambling a little bit. I think that's the best way to put it is if you gamble long enough just on roulette, the house will always win because there's a slightly less than 50% chance that you win, but it's almost reversed where it's like if you bet on yourself every single day after day after day, eventually there'll be a time where you will succeed because you have the odds with you, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and I truly do believe that. And going back to like the podcast thing you touched on a little bit earlier, like the whole reason why I started this in the first place is to document the whole thing, right? The good, the bad, and the ugly, to prove that this whole like you said, the get rich quick schemes, like it's not all sunshine and rainbows, right? Like business is tough. Like you said, there's a certain amount of points that you have to earn in order to get to 1 million, even to get to 500, like even to get to 300. Like there's a type of there's these steps that you have to follow. Like you can't skip these steps or else you will not make it. So it's like, well, you have to learn. At first you have to learn how to do the work. Then you have to learn how to manage people. Then you have to learn how to be a leader. Then you have to learn how to make other people be leaders. Then you have to learn how to manage leaders, this and this and that. And it's like these are the little points that you have to score A's on, because if you score B's, eventually it'll just, crumble down to the ground. So
yeah, but you have as many times, have as many test retakes as you want, but you will eventually have to figure out how to have it be an A. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Like there's no loss. There's no losses in business unless you quit, right? The
Correct.
only real
Same
loss
thing
that
with
you have
investing. Yeah.
is the only real thing that you lose is when you quit. Like you said with investing, you only really lose money when you take it out, right? When it's still in, like
Or
sure,
make
it'll
money.
show
Yeah. Yeah.
negative. It'll
Yeah.
show negative for a little bit, but it always bounce back in a long enough time horizon. But having said all this, now where do you stand now, and what are you kind of looking forward to?
I'm glad you asked. No, so realistically, as far as like, I'm assuming you're asking kind of like, hey, what's next 12 months look like? I guess that's the way I'll take it. That's the way I'll go off of because that's the thing I've thought about the most.
Okay.
The next 12 months, we will end off this year between 550 and 600 is my best guess. Probably closer to that 550 mark. Um, we will open. We're opening a second location this year, or sorry, next year. So if we service this entire, or let's say we service my entire screen, right? Just as like a good example, we're kind of cutting off like this much of it for a new location next year, just because this area happens to be the area that we're like most. This little area probably has 40% of our customers in it, or 30% of our customers in it, and so even though it's like 10% of the screen or 10% of our service area. It has like 30% of our customers. And so we're splitting off that next year to have another location. And then the rest of this area will still be one big location. And the goal is to split off more locations in the future. So split this off and then split this off, split that off kind of thing. Kind of have this hub and spoke model where there's kind of like one big location that every year it shoots off one or two smaller locations that have grown to size. And so we'll do 550 this year. We'll probably grow, like we'll end up giving a couple $100,000 in revenue to the other location, and then growing to $700,000, and then the next year splitting off one or two locations, and so kind of always like growing really really fast at this main location and profiting, but then kind of like nerfing it a little bit by taking it down, we're still same total amount of money made, but giving it to other locations as far as like the money that Bryson Turner makes. But as far as the individual revenue locations, like getting it to 700, then taking it down to 400, and then going from 400 to 700 again, and then taking it down to 400, just until we can kind of like almost like cellular division, where like one location gets big and profitable enough and enough customers to where it can turn into two smaller locations. So we'll do that. So we have at least one GM going to training, Augusta GM training in January with you, and then we also, we'll have both locations have a GM over it. That way I can focus more on growth and not, I guess I'll be the regional manager. So if a GM quits, which will not be Andrew. So another reason I'm lucky, Andrew will not quit unless I really piss him off for some reason, which I don't plan on doing. He's a pretty level-headed guy. That kind of just leaves one other GM that we have to find from the crew that we actually have to pull from the field, because the first time Andrew will work for Augusta will be as a GM thing, and that's not super common within the business model. And so we'll have to find one person from within the field, and the only way I will have to mow a lawn or manage an individual team member or whatever is if that GM quits and I have to jump back in as a temporary GM. And so that's what I'm really looking forward to. That we are starting. Cause I guess the total revenue goal next year is $1 million-ish. We'll see. Maybe next year's the year I get really unlucky, but I plan on working enough hours to decrease those chances as much as possible. I plan on trying to generate as much luck as possible, like I've done the last 2 years. And then at the same time, hopefully, we're going to be. We've started to post content recently, like short form, not long form, but we will start doing long form stuff, and then as well as possibly having a school group, which would be pretty cool. And so, not less of like in a course realm, but more of almost trying to like recreate some of what Augusta has as an Augusta community. But a lot of people want to keep their own business, which is completely fine. Like, there's no great, awesome. But then they lose the ability to have something like the Augusta community. And so if I could create something like that, that'd be awesome. So we're hoping to do that. So a bunch of random different crap that we'll see what we drop and what fails and whatever kind of thing. But
Yeah.
like I said, I plan on working enough hours to decrease the chances of unluckiness as much as possible.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, you have a very similar plan to kind of what I have planned for next year. I think that, well, this year was honestly like
Unexpected,
an
yeah.
unexpected test of everything. Monkey wrenches, freaking left to right, center. I'm just like at this
I
point.
do believe that you will not quit now. Yeah, I
Oh
do
yeah,
believe
no,
you.
no, no,
Yeah.
no. I'm way too deep in.
Too locked in. Yeah,
I
yeah.
cannot. I cannot. It was never an option in the first place.
It would
But
almost
now
feel like
it's
a disappointment now. Yeah.
oh yeah, no, I would not be able to live with myself. But I mean, like, I didn't have plans to start a second location up until like maybe
Yeah,
like
till next year.
2027 really was like the
Okay.
projection. But you know, things happen for some reason. Whether it's luck or not, I will find out next year. But it so happens to essentially land on my hands, make the purchase, get the second location. We've been
For
pretty
less
much-
than the franchise, you should mention that. I don't know if you mentioned that.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
For less
Usually-
than it costs to buy a franchise from Augusta.
essentially
you bought
like
a-
what $7,000 less.
Yeah.
When it comes to like the public,
Not
public
including the few customers it came with. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've managed to stay breaking even on that one, so that's fine with me. I don't want to complicate my life too much going into this end of season. But you know, like you said, January have a GM that's gonna get training. I guess you know, hopefully they become girlfriend boyfriend or boyfriends together. That would be kind of cool. And yeah, you know, he'll be taking over operations here in Alexandria, and I'm actually going to be essentially general manager over at Burke
Yeah.
because I know
Okay.
that I can get that started up, and you know, not breaking even, but like doing like 20K pretty easily within the next 2-3 months if I'm there. I simply don't think that anybody else can make it as fast as I can, which might be a limiting belief. I don't know, but I.
What
need
is
it
your
to
goal for
work.
Alejandro to do next year? As far as like how
500K.
to grow Alexandria.
500K.
Okay. 500K. Yeah. Yeah.
Like flat. I don't expect
That's a
him to
good
do
goal,
any more
especially
than that.
under GM. Yeah. That's a good goal.
Because I
then
know
you can
we're
easily afford
definitely
that.
gonna grow. We'll grow probably equally to this year, but since he's been with us this whole year, he kind of knows what to expect, knows the workload. I've been feeding him estimates, kind of systems and all and whatnot. So I'm pretty sure he is, you know, probably at 50 to 60% there. With training, I hope that he gets to 70, 80%, and then, you know, the rest is just experience overall. He's gonna fuck up. I'm gonna fuck up as a teacher, and we'll just have to work together to make things work. But I do believe that next year we'll do 500K in Alexandria, and when I get to that 20K run rate with Burke, we should end the year with a combined revenue of like around 700K.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. Yeah.
And that would be the goal, and I think it's very doable. And I have
With
right
two
now,
people, easy. Yeah.
yeah. Right now, my whole goal is to get everything set up now to, again, like you said, lower the chance of failure, increasing the chance of luck. And all I know is that next year is going to be rough, and we're going to put as many hours as it's needed in order to, you know, at least have 2027 be not as rough as next year will be. So it'll be a rough ride.
It's so exciting. Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome, dude. Yeah, like I said, you've gone through so many, like, you've done so much more this year outside of the business, and so that's why there's like a difference there. And so, yeah, I do respect those people more than myself because they're doing other things and not just focusing on one thing. Because it's easy to be successful if you just do one thing only. It's not that hard, and so that's why I feel like sometimes the numbers are great, but I'm only doing that, and so I think a lot of people are doing a lot better than me as far as, like, I guess I don't get too caught up in the numbers because it's the only thing I'm doing, so I can't actually be that prideful of it because a lot of people could do what I'm doing if that's all they did.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. But then you also have to give credit to yourself because a lot of people would have either failed or given up
Sure.
or just not done
Sure.
as well. So you can't take credit away from yourself. But so kind of in subject, but a little bit apart from the subject. I know personally that you are a man of God. You know, you go through your church, go to your youth groups, go to mission trips, and honestly, that's something that I've tried to do more of. Not just go to church on Sundays, but I've also tried to be a member, give as much as I can. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we do their lights and stuff, and we give them a fair deal, and it lights up the church. It's really nice. We try to do as much as I can towards it. But how important do you think faith is in your business?
I think it's the only thing that really matters. Um, Here's what I play with a lot, right? Because as a business owner, you want to think a lot of it's your, like, obviously, like it. You can be as humble to the world as you want, but everybody inside is like, oh, look how much as long as you're doing well, you're like, oh, look how much I'm crushing it. And I think it is like this existential. Am I crushing it, or is this success because I plan on putting these resources toward? Like I tell people, like I want to get as rich as possible, as quickly as possible, so that I can use the money for the kingdom, that kind of thing. And so it's like I have the goals of the world so that I can fulfill the goals of the kingdom is, I guess, the best way to put it. And so some of it obviously is like this existential crisis, like a man, an entrepreneur, of like, am I actually this good, or is it God giving me like all these opportunities or whatever? Because maybe that's probably the thing, right? And so I think that the best way I do like to put it, this is super, I guess, baseline, low level, is for the agnostic or the atheist or whatever kind of thing. Do you think it hurt if this was something that you like committed that part of your life to? Do you think it hurt? It's definitely not gonna. It's probably not gonna hurt, right? And this is like so much. I guess I'm definitely into it more than like I just believe in this because it's definitely not gonna hurt my business, to be clear. But I guess speaking to the non-believer, everything you've heard about any God ever, regardless of if you're a both follower of Jesus Christ, the blood-bought, born-again child of the risen King, or I guess regardless if you believe it, like whatever you believe in, very few of them like are nerfing your business. And so I think that's one thing I think about of like it's so much more than that. But to the person who isn't, I guess that's what I encourage people of like, give it a shot. It's not gonna harm anything. And I guess to take it from that low level thing to a higher level thing, I think it's everything. I think that I truly believe it's hard to like go from a baseline of assuming everybody is and listening to this is assuming everybody listening to this is not a believer, right? And so it is difficult to like. My answer here is a different answer than in a circle of believers because it's like, oh, I see it this and this and this and this. Some of that sounds bonkers to somebody else who is not a believer. And so I think that if anything, it's the comfort of knowing that as alone as you are in business, you're not. Regardless if you've got another business owner or an Andrew in your life or whatever, like you don't have to have any of those people. And you're still not alone. Regardless of like maybe that's just because like praying is someone to talk to and get your emotions out, right? Like whenever I talk to somebody, half the time I end up thinking my way through my problem anyway. Even just like I'll talk to you on the phone, talk to Garrett and Glendale on the phone, whatever. I talk to a coach. You just end up talking your way through your problem anyway. So whether it does that for you or whether you truly see things that are like I prayed over this and this came directly from that. Fine. Something that I mean, personally, I do not every day, but a prayer I pray very often is like essentially make me successful and I will use it for your kingdom kind of thing. Like, trust me, I'm doing this and I'm really trying and like I'm working these ungodly hours. And it is like on the outside, people are going to think like, oh, Bryson's so cool kind of thing. I will do my best to not be the person who contributes to, I guess, like I won't put myself out there and be like, look at how cool I am kind of thing. I will point the glory back to you. And then when it's all said and done and I have my riches kind of thing, then I will use it to take care of your people and change the world for that good. Does that make sense? So I feel like give a really long roundabout answer to some of that, but hopefully there's a couple of good tidbits in there a little bit of, I guess it was a question that I had to think through a little bit of the specific things, but I guess to start the same way or to end the same way I started, I think it's everything.
No, yeah, I definitely resonate with what you said. I think that um, I think that
It's a hard
everything
thing
that
to
you
think
have,
about.
yeah, it's everything that you have, and everything that you're gonna get, anything that you've had, was given to you thanks to God, thanks to Jesus, right?
Regardless if you're a believer or not. Yeah, by the grace of God. Yeah.
Regardless, whether you believe, whether you don't believe, whether you think we're a nut in some tree, or whether you believe that we're evolved from chimpanzees, whatever you want to believe, you were put here by a creator, and he's all-knowing, he's great, he's powerful, he loves you. And so the bare minimum that you can do to maybe chip away at the amount of debt that you owe, which you technically don't owe any debt because he doesn't keep count, but if you want to put it in worldly terms, if you want to start chipping away at that debt, giving back is the best way possible. Influencing people towards the Gospels, influencing people towards knowing who Jesus was and what he did for you is the way to do it. And the thing is that nowadays, like we talked about, it's all about attention. And attention is very expensive, right? It takes
It's the
a
world's
lot of
currency
money.
of today. Yeah.
Yeah, it takes a lot of money, it takes a lot of people to do it, and it takes a lot of time. And as someone who just doesn't have those resources as of now to really make an impact that I want to make, there's steps to it, right? And if that's the end goal, well, guess what? I have to get money first. Then I have to get influence. Then I have to get the team, right? It's three major steps in order to, reach a point where your influence and your impact can actually make a difference. And in order to do that, well, you have business, you have social media influencing and stuff, and then you have either like a team, media company, whatever you want to call it. And then as long as you're doing those three things, as long as I'm doing those three things with the end goal of, coming around full circle and giving thanks and showing thanks by giving back, I think that all of it is justified and all of it is worth it. What do you think?
Yeah. No, I think so too. And I think some of that's showing like yourself through, I guess, showing Christ through yourself to team members. It's just acting a different way. And I think that here's another thing for like the agnostic that's listening to this. Business wise, it's not going to hurt. But also like personally, like personal life wise, like the stuff that the Bible preaches is like telling you how to be telling you how to be the best person, and the best things for yourself, right? Like it's not like there's these bunch of bogus. I guess everything that the Bible says, hey, you probably shouldn't do this, and like this is a sin, are things that like in real life, like science backs, like, hey, you probably shouldn't do this. Like you probably shouldn't go sleep with 80 women because then whenever you find your wife, then it's not going to be the same experience as if you had saved yourself for just that person. Or if you go, I guess, like if you get entrapped in the ways of the riches of the world, I guess without the correct. That's why I very much caveat, like I want to become rich and wealthy to use it for the right reasons. But if you get I guess roped into that goal for the wrong reasons, it leads to a fairly like the reason money can't buy happiness is a saying is because like it can buy you a jet ski, which can provide happiness for a time. 100%. Like I'm a huge. I don't think money can buy the state of permanently being happy, but it can definitely buy like happy moments. Because I'm probably going to be more happy on a jet ski than not on a jet ski, and just like sitting in my office doing work. But like that true like fulfillment that comes from like right here in your chest, it doesn't come from that. Because at the end of the day, you get off the jet ski and then it's no longer fun. And you're still alone with your thoughts at certain times. And so, yeah, I guess give it a shot. Go to church. Try to, like, even if you are this, I guess that's what the best way I can say it is just like speaking to the complete unbeliever, is like, give it a shot. Go to church. Follow, like, call them rules. Like, they're rules, but they're not like this, like, a lot of rules are seen as like, oh, this is stupid that I have to follow this. Everything in there is all in betterment of like if the Bible wasn't written by Jesus, you'd think it's like a like a self-help book kind of thing because it's like do work, don't go sleep with a bunch of women, don't like treat your body as a temple, go get drunk and like just party or whatever. Like the entire Bible is like stay locked in and like fight the good fight, run the race and finish the race, having done as many things. And like I guess to be clear, like believe in the Lord, like that's the only way to heaven is through believing in Jesus. But the way to like show that you do, I guess, I'm trying to separate myself from like Christianity, Catholicism a little bit. Of like to be clear, I don't believe that good works get you into heaven. I believe that believing in Jesus Christ as the one and only Savior of the world does that.
Yeah, but like you said, good works just don't hurt. Good works don't hurt.
But good works, like that's what communicate. Like if I was going and doing all those things that I was just talking about a second ago, if there was me that does what I do now, and there was me that does like all those things that get drunk on a Friday night and go party and sleep, whatever kind of thing, like which one would you guess is the religious man? Probably this one. Probably if you have an IQ of 4, like probably this one. And so I guess like the way to show that is who you are and what you believe in is this, and like turns out this whole like persona is so much better for you than all the things that are trapped into this. That's why like people celebrate sobriety. It's because like that's part of this thing. People celebrate the fact that they did save themselves from marriage because not doing that's part of this thing. And like all these things that people celebrate not doing are like the life of somebody who's not living in the way that the Bible teaches. And somebody who never like has the most boring testimony of not even religious testimony, but just testimony of their life. The person who has the most boring story is the person that just like did this and stuck it out and ran the race and fought the good fight and never strayed from it. Obviously, like everybody strays over here. Same thing with getting burnt out. It's a thing that anybody can tell you that they don't, and they do. But staying on this side as much as you can, and just like those are just the people that you happen to look up to, right? Yeah, like you just happen to look like the people that are on this side just happen to be, in average. There's great people on both sides. In average, the better people happen to be the ones that have kind of stuck with this their entire life. As far as people you look up to as a man looking up to men, or as a female looking up to females, or vice versa, kind of thing. The people that I look up to most just happen to be on like Mike Andes, my dad, Garrett and Glendale, whatever. Like all these people that are kind of like because I don't have relations with or pay attention to a lot of people right now. It's like a lot of these people are in here, and I take all like the life stuff, all this from here, and these just happen to be the people I look up to. And then there's people like Alex Hormozy, where it's like, to be clear, he's a great guy. He's not doing all this stuff because he's also very locked in the business. But I take business advice from this side because like he's not talking about like all this other stuff he may or may not do, which he isn't mostly a part of that. But he's not doing this because of the religious reason. So I guess I almost put him over there. But I take business advice from here. I think his marriage advice is probably terrible. I think a lot of his like a lot of his other stuff like that is probably terrible, and that's why I take it from my dad, who's been married to my mom for 20 something years or whatever. I think. Yeah, I almost feel like I've forgotten where I've come from as far as the last couple minutes of myself talking, but I feel like there's something in there that is valuable, and maybe I just sound like I'm speaking in tongues, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I think that, like you said, boiling it down to like a very, very, very simple level, I think that what the Bible teaches you or what Jesus teaches in the Bible is how to be a basic good human being, right? And what a lot of people think of as rules or as limitations or as like, oh, why do I have to follow this and this and this and that? It's, if you really think about it, it's more actually just trying to save you from hurting yourself, right? Like you said, don't get drunk. Don't sleep with a lot of women. Don't hurt others or treat others the way you want to be treated so you don't get treated bad. And like don't look at the bad in people before realizing that there's bad in yourself as well, because then that makes you a more resentful person and someone that it's not good to be around. So it's like when you stop looking at things as with like such bias of you being such a great person, or with the bias that there's nothing wrong with this, or with the bias that, oh, it's just because this is religion, I don't want to listen to it. When you stop thinking of things like that, or that way, you start looking at it maybe from a third person perspective, or with like an understanding or wanting to know what's going on type of mentality, you realize that, you know, it makes a lot of fucking sense. Like, hey, if I want to become a great man that my wife can be proud of and my children can look up to, maybe I should treat women good. Maybe I shouldn't sleep with a lot of women. Maybe I should not get drunk. Maybe I should respect people. And maybe I should, and maybe I should be a humble person and, you know, not think of much of myself, because a lot of the things that I do I can't really attribute to myself, but I can attribute to the person that died for me, saved me, and has given me everything I have, you know? And like you said, it literally does not hurt to give it a try. Like, at the end of the day, if you end up not liking it, that's on you. That's your choice. Great. But at least now you know that that's not your thing.
I really, like I said, I'm really loving this example where there's two ends of the extreme, where like you think about, it's like Charlie Munger's like how to fail. And you're like, okay, so this, if I wanted my business to fail, I do this, 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 and this, and this. So as long as I do not these things, then I'm probably going to at least succeed, or as long as I stay in the game long enough. I kind of think about it the same way of like, if you just go with the ways of the world, you're over here, and this is the extreme side. To start with the simple side, if you follow the Bible as strict as possible, kind of all that like literal interpretations of almost everything, whatever. That's the non-extreme side, and the extreme side is, or I guess this is the zero as far as like the extracurricular, all the things you just mentioned, extracurricular things you could be doing, and then this is 100% where like you're enthralled in that life. Doing nothing to like, by doing this, there's all these possibilities that could happen of like you lose out, even if we just relate to it in business, like you lose out on a great business opportunity because you were incoherent to hear about it, or somebody hears you I guess talking some way about somebody or whatever, and they're like, I don't want to work with that guy, and then you lose another business, whatever. The chances of that happening when you're down here are zero, because you're not doing any of it. The chances of happening over here are less than 100, but they're more than zero. So even if it was 1%, like 0 and 1%, I'd probably rather be on the 1%, even if it's not something that you, I guess, even if you choose to not follow religion. I don't think that's this is the place to pitch the gospel to somebody, I guess, like hard launch kind of thing. But I do think it's the place to, I guess, say what it's done for myself. And I think like being part of, obviously, like I'm not right there, but hopefully we're like on an average day, if I can be like right in here, that's great, right? Because it's like, I'm not going to be this as much as I strive to be as far as down here as possible. I don't know if like this is Amish or like what it is down here, but like
oh my God.
I mean, to be clear, like I disagree with some of their religious beliefs. Like if you think about like the epitome of taking everything out of your life that could possibly cause you to falter, like that's Amish. And they're the best, like most looked up to, strictest about their life people that I could possibly think of. And so if I could be here on a good day, like or like on the average day, then like I would call that success. Just staying as far away from over here, because like over here is we talked about chances, like doing this is going to give you more of a chance to get unlucky. Not doing all that stuff is going to give you is just going to give you a chance of like just having your work and your morals and your ethic be a direct output of what you put in. Over here, it's almost like putting like you can work, but then you put it through this filter of, oh, I worked really hard today, and then I went out and did all these things that night, and then like the outcome, even both people can work the same amount over here. Maybe we both work 10 hours, then I just go straight to bed. But you go out and you, or not you, but whoever goes out and is drunk on a Friday night, and then they make some terrible decision where they get into a fight with some guy and they end up in jail over the weekend. Like, great, I woke up after that Friday and I worked on Saturday. This guy spent his day in jail. Like those are two extreme examples, right? But the chances of all this happening when I'm on this side are like none. The chances of it happening on this side are more than zero, and I guess that's even if it was 0 and 1%.
Yeah.
Why would you not be on the 0% side?
Yeah, I think that's a great example. I think like I mean this even translate from what we just talked about on the business side. Like the more positive work or the more work that you do towards your goal means that you will eventually get more lucky, and the thing that you want done will actually get done, right? But the same thing happens on the other extreme. Like if you don't get up, if you don't do the work, if you don't go to your estimates, if you don't hire, then you will by default not make it, right? So
Yeah.
like you just said, it all translates over from either business to personal life to faith. And I want to make it clear that this is not a call to stick to religion or not live by religion itself. It's more of a call to expand, or at the very least let you know what Jesus has done, whether it's in your life or whether it's in my life, right? Because I feel like a lot of people misunderstand that religion is one single thing, and then you have Jesus as another different thing, right? Yes, by default, Jesus is, you have to be a Christian or you have to follow Christianity in order to understand what Jesus is about. But in the modern world, it's very skewed because of either malicious people with malicious intent, people that take advantage of things like that. But that's a whole other conversation. The whole point is that there's this guy that came down, did a bunch of good stuff, was hated for it, sacrificed himself for you, and now essentially you are saved as long as you believe. And even if you don't believe now, but you believe later, you will still be saved. And he's just an example to follow because he was a good guy at the end of the day. Like sometimes it's just that simple.
Yeah, I guess like to the religious, I think your baseline question is what has religion done for you, and I think that that's not something that the religious listener to this podcast is thinking about. I guess like it's not something where like the person who's religious, if I was listening to the podcast and I was already religious, I'd know what Jesus had done for, or God had done for like my business, right? It's not something where like whenever you ask that question, the people that ears perked up was not the Christians, right? It was the people that are like, what's this dude about to say about some BS going into this? Which is totally fine, right? Like if I don't believe something, I'd also think that. But I guess that's why I tried to speak more towards like the agnostic atheist side of things, or other religion side of things. Yeah, just give it just give it a shot. Like you could be a great, just like try, do something. Like that's how you got into business in the first place, assuming you are. Is you just gave it a shot. Like you heard about how hard it is and how many people fail and how 60% of small businesses fail within the first year, and of the 40% that do make it, like 80% of them fail the second year. So it's like 5% of businesses make it after a couple of years. And you think about that same thing. Like you still joined business, you just tried it out, thinking that maybe it could be for you. And I don't think religion is something that's for everybody. I think that's a misnomer of somebody saying it's just not for me. That's baloney. It is for everybody because Jesus died for everybody. But I have reconciled with the fact that I'm not going to convince everybody, and so I won't try to do that. But I'll give it my at least my input of, it's the only thing that matters. You can't take anything with you. Even the agnostic or atheist believes that you can't take anything with you when you're dead, because like how is that physically going to work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, voice getting scratchy, right? So like even though we can't, everybody believes that, and so what good is a big bank account when you're dead? And that's why I so much emphasize, like, I want to, quote unquote, have the big bank account so that either when I'm gone, if for some reason I die before, I guess my plan, then I can have that allocated towards like, hey, this is in the case that this happens, this money goes here, so I'm still making an impact. Or if I have the privilege of living long enough to see out my what's the word? If I live long enough to see out my philanthropy, then awesome, right? But it'll still end up going to the same place. And so I guess that's with the right things in place as far as like a goodwill, like make sure the money still ends up going to the same place as long as you, if you pass away too early, then like every second, every dollar that I make on this earth will still end up having the same impact. And so that's why I'm not worried about building a big bank account and then like because I will and then I'll use it for the correct things. Because you can't take it when you go with you. Can't.
Yeah.
So at least try it out. Like, try. I can't convince you. If you say it's not for you, great. I can't change that over a Zoom podcast, whatever fancy app you got going on here. I can't change it over a podcast, but I can urge you to try.
Yep. Only thing we can do is plant the seed. Now it's up to the person whether they want that seed to grow or just die away. But listen, man, I'm not gonna keep you for a long time. Well, I think we're both very tired. But this has been great. We definitely have to do a follow up, probably in person in Colorado, in Colorado or in Washington.
Yeah, dude. We can go hike a mountain and then do one in person on top of that.
Yeah, I think that we should definitely shoot for. I think I told you this before. Like, definitely want to do a Chris, Alex kind of pod. We just kind of go into everything. I think that would be insane. I think that would be crazy.
It took me like 3 seconds to get what you were talking about. I just was not in that mindset. My brain's fried. And I was like, who are Chris and Alex? Gotcha now. Yes, we got to recreate that picture at least.
Yeah, we got to recreate that picture when we go in. So
I think if I'd be able to, we got to find a space where I can yell, because right now I'm in my office in my parents' house, and I can see my dad and my brother and my mom. And if I decide, and is it a house or is it an apartment?
Yeah, this is my apartment. Yep.
Yeah, so if you yell, people are going to hear you. If I yell, people will hear me. I'd like to get to the point where like we could do it like my shop or something, where we close all the doors and I could like get heated, not with you, but against the world. But
yeah, unfiltered, I'm really unfiltered pod. I think
correct. Unfiltered as far as my vocal expressions.
No, yeah, I definitely think we'll do everything possible to make that happen later in a couple months. So everybody that's listening has to stick to part 2 because part 2 will happen.
What a thing to look forward to! This guy I've never heard of gets to be on Ricardo's podcast again.
Exactly, but don't worry, we'll get your name out there, and we'll make sure people know who Bryson Turner is because it's someone that's worth knowing. But hopefully, before we wrap it up, I do want to ask you this thing. I think this is a question that I'm going to start asking everybody that gets on the podcast, because I think it's something that can be very, very simple, but also, depending on the person, you can have multiple different responses. And that question is, to you personally, what is your definition of success?
Dude, there's another podcast that I've been on that asked this. That's like, it's yeah. I got to think of my answer. I had like a real deep answer, and you can cut whatever you need, but I need to. I think because you asked me mine, not like what is my definition of success for anybody else. Like if I saw somebody, whatever, my definition of like I will feel. That's what I did. I redefined the dude's question. I said I will feel successful when. Because like when I was talking about earlier, like we bought a new truck. We financed a new truck yesterday. Like 2 years ago, me would have been like, what? Like, you guys, and we're trying to get another one too. I just can't get approved because I'm freaking 18. I have a good credit score, but not long enough of a credit score. So that would have been like the end of the world, like the craziest thing that ever happened to me. And I bought it yesterday, and I'm grateful for the opportunity, kind of thing. But it's also like it just feels like the next rung on the ladder, right? And like same thing, you making 300 or doing 300,000 or between 3 and 4 gross this year. Like a couple years ago, would have felt like that's a big number. And same thing to me, right? So I just feel like it's the next rung on the ladder, and so I feel like maybe that's success. Whatever. I do feel like I will feel successful and fulfilled when I can begin. I don't know, man. Because it has to do with I'm almost like the last time I gave this answer was over a year ago, and I feel like I might be redefining what I feel. And I don't know if there's like a concrete answer that I can give, which is like a super lame ass answer to give. But I feel like before I would have said like, hey, when I can start doing this, like a lot of like the stuff more on missions. But I feel like it's such a not a revolving door, but like a continuing cycle. It's not like this thing where you run the race and then at the end of the race, like you finish the race kind of thing. You finish the race when you die. And so I guess like it's somewhat important to feel successful, or not feel successful, but like not relish in your success, but acknowledge the things you've accomplished so far. However, I'm not doing what I'd like to be doing in the future as far as missions and the donations and build, like I want to build things like that. And so I feel like I will feel more successful at that point. But I don't think I think I'll feel successful when I die and I get to heaven and Jesus Christ or the Lord says, "Well done, my good and faithful servant. Here's the things you've accomplished over your lifetime as far as how you made my kingdom better." I think is the best answer I can give, because I really don't think like it won't stop till I'm dead. And I know that's the same thing for you of like I won't stop hopefully having a positive impact until I'm dead. And so the only thing that I can mark as the end, like a successful, like I was successful kind of thing, is what I can judge once my life's over.
Very interesting. I saw a post. Maybe it might have been a post, might have been a video. I'm not sure, but there was this thing. It's like you die, you get to heaven, you've lived life exactly how you wanted.
I love this, dude.
Exactly how you wanted, doing your thing, whatever, what you thought was good. You get to heaven, maybe either Jesus or God is right there, and then he's telling you, "Hey, Bryson, are you Bryson Turner? Are you the guy that built $1 million business? Are you the guy that built like an organization to do mission trips, to do this and this and that? Are you a guy that influenced other people in a positive way? Are you the guy that so on and on and on and on?" And then you're like, "Well, I don't know. That's my name, but I didn't do those things. Like, where do you get that from?" And then he looks at you and he's like, "Well, these are the things. This is what I had planned for you. This was your potential. And, my son, you didn't live up to it. Like, what's going on, this and this and that." And I think that's,
terrifying.
Whether
right?
that happens or not, it's just scary to think about that. There was so much potential that you had in your life, but because you decided to live a certain way or not do certain things, you just didn't. And that's just probably the worst thing that could happen to you.
It's terrifying, right? Because like no matter how hard you try, there's probably a little bit more you could have given and at least done that or whatever. And so I guess like I think I first heard that like 6 months ago, and I really wish that I had come up with that whenever like a minute ago when you asked me. I wish I had thought of that to say, because that was such a good tidbit. I think the goal is simply in the context of that example, like check off as many things as possible, or like just like do the work, check off as many of those things as possible, and when you die, you're dead. Who knows when it comes? Could be today. Could be at the end of your long-lived life, and that's when it's done. And until it's done, every day better be the most you can do.
Bryson Turner, everybody. Thank you very much, Bryson. We'll definitely make sure that part 2 happens, and everybody listening,
and 3,
we'll
and 4,
revisit this.
In 20 years, we'll do another pod. Yeah. All right.
In 20 years.
No, we're gonna keep doing them for the next 20 years. I mean, yeah.
Oh, yeah. We'll make this a tradition, and we'll see what we come up with in a couple months. So,
good deal.
Thank you, Bryson.
Thanks, Ricardo. Yep.
Thank you so much for listening and for watching. It really does mean the world to us, and we really appreciate every single one of you who sticks around all the way until the end. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, leave us a review on the podcast platform. It really does help us grow. And until next time, see you guys.